From the creators of Relevant Magazine, this is the Relevant Podcast.
It's Friday, December 20th, 2019. You're listening to the Relevant Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Huckabee, here in Nashville, Tennessee. Get ready for Christmas. Meanwhile, in Florida, where Christmas never comes because it's too hot. There's no winter. It's just hot and
like
unbearable,
60.
and there's no holidays.
It was like 60 yesterday.
It's like 60 yesterday. That is as cold as it gets in Orlando, Florida. where my friend keeping us from going into the ditch over there, Chandler Strang is with us. Hey, Chandler.
Hello.
And meanwhile, up there, I don't really know what Christmas is like in Loveland, Virginia. I've never even been to Loveland, Virginia. I imagine they celebrate Christmas, but I don't think it has the winter cheer that most people associate with the holidays. It's Jesse Carey.
Hello. This morning in Virginia Beach, it was 27 degrees. Though a couple days earlier, it was in the 60s. So we're kind of all over the place. It's tough. It's tough. So
is there a lot of like that kitschy like Santa and board shorts type stuff around there? That
Santa with a surfboard, all that jazz.
Yeah. That's such an interesting like counter narrative to the idea that I have of Santa Claus. Although he can't stay in the North Pole all year long. I guess he's got to get around.
Everybody needs a vacation every once in a while,
And he's got a way to travel. He
can go anywhere he wants. Hey, dude, Tyler, there is a lot of content on today's show.
We don't even have time to banter. We've got to get going.
Here's the thing.
Too much stuff. This rundown I'm looking at is very long.
Traditionally, the Relevant Podcast has kind of gone dark during the holidays because, it's a busy time. The office shuts down. Not only do we have a packed show this week, we are only doing one show next week because of Christmas. But I'm going to tease out. Can I tease out, Tyler, who we have next week?
Next week? Yeah, we'll get to this week, but you don't need. Trust us. This episode is going to be good. We got a lot to get to, but go ahead and let them know. Just dangle the carrot in front of them for what next week is going to be like. After
Christmas, you're still hanging out. You're probably still on vacation, or you're traveling back home, or you need a little break from your parents' house. Corey Asbury is joining us for the whole show. He's going to guest host with us. And Tyler, you recently sat down with the one, the only, the living legend, Greta Gerwig, the filmmaker. Oh, wow. And we have an interview with Greta Gerwig. We have Corey Asbury join us. Tyler made Greta Gerwig cry, and you're going to hear that.
That's not fact. I wouldn't want people saying Tyler Huckabee made Greta Gerwig cry. She did get a little misty at one point, but I don't think it was anything. I don't think I insulted her art.
Yeah, well, so it was a very hostile interview. But we have Greta Gerwig.
These women were completely normal sized. They were average sized women.
And just call them little women, okay?
Just call it women.
So we have Greta Gerwig, Corey Asbury join us for the whole show. By the way, I don't want to give too much away about next week. We haven't even talked about what's coming up this week. But Corey Asbury, there's been a major development with his Chick-fil-A Black Card that I have talked to him about. Tyler, I think I've told you about this. You
mentioned this to me, and this is a scandal. We're going to be breaking.
There is a huge scandal involving Corey. Me and Corey talked a few weeks ago about something unrelated, and I asked him about his Chick-fil-A Black Card, which we've talked about extensively on this podcast. How he holds a card that entitles him to free Chick-fil-A for life.
Very cool.
There has been a major change Corey was blindsided by a policy change involving his Black Card, and
we've already said too much. We've already said too much.
We'll have him talk about it, but let's just say this: another very popular casual dining chain has stepped in and given Corey some pretty interesting swag. So we'll talk with him. We've got a Gerwig. Tell him who's coming up today on the show.
Today is this is a good one. We've got a lot of it. First up, coming at us, we're going to be talking to Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Jonathan Pryce is an actor you're probably familiar with if you watch Game of Thrones. He's the High Sparrow. He's on Pirates of the Caribbean. He is also the star of the new Netflix movie, The Two Popes, in which he plays Pope Francis. We talked to him about that experience. And that's not all. We also got Bethany Phillips and Marquita Anthony of Highlands Worship. They've got a new Christmas EP. It's called Shine Heaven's Light. We'll hear some tracks from that release. We talking to them. We usually don't, it's usually one special guest. This time we have 3. We were going to have 4. Prop was going to be on with us today, but he called this morning. He said he can't even talk. He's got some sort of throat bug.
Prayers up for Prop. I was texting him that he was going to join us today. That was the plan. And he's very ill. Prayers up. He's having, he's got he said he can barely speak because he's so hoarse. So, unfortunately, Prop
did you talk to him or was this a text? This
conversation? This was a text chain. But can I read you his I'll read you his text that he sent me at 6:30 this morning. He said, okay. I'm still sounding like I smoke 6 packs a day. Sorry, bro. I just can't talk today. So prayers up for Prop, fighting that winter illness. And Chandler was barely able to make it this morning. He was putting his finishing touches, late, last night on, I think it was around like 4:30, in the afternoon. Chandler was working hard, about to hit publish on a piece about why he supports Trump's removal from office. When suddenly another one got published and all that work went down the drain. Chandler's editorial got scooped.
Beat me to it.
So he had a long night. He was very upset about that. But we'll talk about that later. So
Chandler.
Busy.
Sorry, Chandler. It's a good piece.
It was a good piece.
It was thoughtful, had moral clarity. I appreciated it. It really would have inspired
He was literally about to click publish when his Twitter feed blew up with another very, very similar take. So sorry, Chandler. It happens, man.
All due respect to our colleagues.
Sorry, Chandler. I know it was a real bummer. I know you were excited to have the president call you ET to insult you on Twitter, but I'm sure you'll have an opportunity for our commander-in-chief to lob personal insults.
I wear it as a badge of honor.
Chandler's piece also had irrefutable evidence of Russia meddling in the election, which was part of the reason. But we're not going to publish it with Christianity Today.
We're going to do that to our colleagues over at CT. Try to undercut them. But Chandler has actually been spending a significant amount of time undercover in Ukraine and Russia, and has stunning evidence. But again, the right thing to do is let CT have their moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chandler will be releasing his findings in a 700-part tweet thread later today. Extremely excited to wade into that one.
My one piece of advice when I was reading over the tweet thread was to cut back on every other tweet was that Antonio Banderas gif where he like closes a laptop and pulls his hair back and just goes, and you can just see him go, ooh yeah, like that was most of the 700 tweets was that Antonio Banderas gif. So it's a different take, but sorry,
it's
Chandler.
Not the same thing. It's not the same thing as the CT piece, but it's definitely very interesting in its own way.
It's
sort of for the Zoomer, for Generation Z. It'll be good for the Zoomer.
It was the Z take. It was the Z take. So that's okay. That's okay. It's it's Chandler was so distraught. He spent the night. He blasted through an entire half liter of Jelly Bean flavored vape juice and just was distraught. He was very nauseous this morning. That's why we got, so anyway, it's a lot of drama around here, but we got a lot to get to. We got a lot to get to today. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're doing the hot list.
Every time, if we pop up in your city, we gon' shut it down. I gotta rep the squad, even if I'm out of town. My circle extra small, yeah, we don't play around. You know how we do it every time. Every time, we are not the same, it's a disconnect. These rappers buying chains with chains around their neck. Whoa, I do it for the people who got nothing left. And if I did it for the money, I would probably.
You're listening to Every Time by the Social Club Misfits. Not the only time we're going to be hearing about Social Club Misfits in this podcast today.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the podcast, you heard Golden by Harry Styles. All right. Oh man, this is going to be quite a hot list. There's a lot of big things happen this week. A lot of kind of dense things happen this week.
Yeah.
But we'll do our best to handle this with the usual wit and dexterity and sensitivity that you expect from this podcast. It's time for
It's the hot list. The hot list. It's sizzling.
number 5. There is a moving short documentary about Fern from Social Club Misfits going to prison and rediscovering his faith. We're big fans of Social Club Misfits.
Yeah.
This podcast, they've joined us many times. I really appreciate their music, their artistry, and also just their voice. And the YouTube channel This Is Me TV released a powerful short doc about the life of Fern, whose real name is Fernando Miranda. Even though Fern is the son of a pastor, when he started finding success in the music industry, he became addicted to cocaine. After becoming involved in the world of drugs, he got arrested and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Here's a clip of the doc.
98, 99, I was already rapping. I was all over the radio stations around here. And out of Hollywood, me and my boys were the main ones. Nobody was doing what we were doing. I get in my car, pick up all my friends. It was a mobile studio. And we would just drive around and we would smoke and we would rap. We all had big hopes and dreams. Along with that came, us not going to college. With that came the nightlife, we started getting high. The drug of choice for me that got me in trouble was cocaine. I started hanging out with people that were using it, and then I start using it. Once I start using it, the problem is you get hooked. Along with addiction comes need. You start to sell a little bit, and you know what? At the end of the day, it's just to feed your hunger. Little did I know it would be the biggest mistake of my life.
This was such a cool, the documentary, the whole thing's only 15 minutes. We embedded it over at relevantmagazine.com. Obviously hat tip to This Is Me TV. It's a really well done thing, but there's a point in the documentary where, Fern he had walked away from the faith he grew up with. He is, getting involved in cocaine and selling cocaine and addicted to cocaine. And he talks about going to a drug deal and, something feels off and fishy about it, but, his addiction kind of clouds his judgment even further. And he does the deal and he pulls out, and he had just signed that week a record deal with Sony Music. And that contract was in his glove box. He says he sees these SUVs pull up behind him. They pull him over. The cops are searching the car. Obviously, it was part of a setup. And he said he's in handcuffs, and the cops, as they're searching the car, find the record contract in the glove box and start gloating, saying, "Look, guys, we just found a rapper. He literally just signed a contract." And they looked at him and said, "Hey, guess the music career's over, huh?" I mean, what a story. And so he ends up going to prison, rediscovering his faith. I don't want to give too much away. If you're a fan of Social Club, even if you're not, it's a fantastic story. Fern's an incredible guy. We're big fans of the music. But check out this doc. It like I said, it's short. You can watch it on your lunch break. It's very cool. A very cool story.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed a good find and really cool. Not an easy thing to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
I think we forget how hard it is. It's no one likes to talk about addiction or going to jail. That's not a fun thing to do, but so powerful to. And
he spent 1,000 days. He spent 1,000 days in prison.
Yeah.
I mean, almost 3 years behind bars. So it's a crazy story, but definitely check it out.
Coming number 4 this week, Chandler, I don't mean to be insensitive, but we do need to talk about this a little bit more. Faith leaders are reacting to Christianity Today's editorial calling for Trump to be removed from office. So, as I'm sure most people who listen to this podcast are aware, on Thursday night, evangelical standard bearer Christianity Today, which is founded by the late Reverend Billy Graham, published a stunning editorial calling for President Donald Trump to be removed from office. Outgoing CT editor-in-chief Mark Galley called Trump, quote, "a near perfect example of a human being who is morally lost and confused," in the editorial, which drew so many clicks that their website crashed for a few minutes. Galley went on to say, whether Mr. Trump should be removed from office by the Senate or by popular vote next election, that is a matter of prudential judgment. That he should be removed, we believe, is not a matter of partisan loyalties, but loyalty to the creator of the 10 Commandments. The editorial drew an enormous amount of attention. not the least of which came from its newly impeached subject, President Trump, who called CT on Twitter, quote, a far left magazine and referred to it as ET. I'm sorry.
Wow.
CT, those commies, our comrades. I said colleagues, our comrades over at CT.
The proletariat rising up against the the president tweeted, quote, a far left magazine, or very progressive, as some would call it, I guess, which has been doing poorly and hasn't been involved with the Billy Graham family for many years. Christianity Today knows nothing about reading a perfect transcript of a routine phone call and would rather have a radical left non-believer who wants to take your religion and your guns than Donald Trump as your president. No president has done more for the evangelical community, and it's not even close. You'll not get anything from those Dems on stage. I won't be reading E.T. again.
Can I issue one quick, I know there's more context to the story, but I just want to issue one quick correction before we go further. I don't know if President Trump understands the impeachment hearings, because if he's impeached and removed from office, the vice president, Mike Pence, becomes president. They don't automatically install whoever this person is that wants to. Is he saying Mike Pence wants to take your religion and your guns? Because that's how my understanding of the removal process works. I don't think they just pick a random person from a different political party. I'm pretty sure it's the vice president. Anyway, continue with.
I don't know if you caught the rest of the editorial, but they actually asked for Chandler to become president and try to remove for his sterling work on uncovering the real Russia conspiracy here. And Chandler does want to take your religion and your guns. So, on that part, I do have to agree with the president.
Ideas. Yeah.
So a few reactions. We've posted a lot of reactions over on relevantmagazine.com to how people are responding to this. Franklin Graham, son of Billy, who founded Christianity Today, has become one of Trump's staunchest evangelical supporters, and he expressed his displeasure to the NYT. He said, my father would be embarrassed. It is not going to change anybody's mind about Trump. There's a liberal element within the evangelical movement. Christianity Today represents that. But Lisa Sharon Harper also spoke to the NYT and said that she saw the editorial as a good step forward. She said, quote, the heart of white evangelicalism is realizing that its pulse is weak and there is sickness in the faith. The fact that it took them so long is something they must learn from, but I'm glad that they spoke out. So many other reactions, both positive and negative, that we posted on Relevant. We won't get into them all here, but this was surprising. We were talking about this a lot before we started.
Yeah.
And today, I think the big surprise here was the Graham connection. I did not expect a magazine associated with the Graham family to come out with a piece like this. No.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, Christianity Today, despite what the president insinuated, I don't think anyone would call far left. They've been relatively apolitical and have reasonably conservative views on most social issues. I mean, Tyler and I, I don't want to speak too much for you, but we've had a lot of relationships with writers and editors there over the years, and consider them colleagues, and definitely have admired a lot of the work that they do, but I would not consider them a political magazine. And the other element is, we've seen some tweets about, well, why doesn't Relevant have a take, which a similar take, which I don't feel like that's unfair. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I also don't think we've been shy about policies and statements of this administration that we feel like fly directly into the face of the values of Jesus Christ. I mean, if anything, we've, had our share of accusations of being, politically left. And I guess,
Chandler goes a little further than I would, maybe, but in general,
has a lot of.
But in general, I
would even call
agree.
his far left or far right. They're just far out, frankly, for Chandler. Some of the things he's recommending,
truly homeless in terms of political party,
are frankly shocking, just shocking. And no, but I mean, I feel anytime we are an outlet that does. Pretty straightforward reporting. We on this podcast, obviously there's commentary and editorialization of different news stories. But I feel like we've made our feelings about many of the policies of this administration pretty clear. Hopefully, I feel like this was a bold take for Christianity Today, particularly because they are a magazine founded by Billy Graham, and Franklin Graham is one of his staunchest supporters. And
I'm sure this cost them. I'm sure this was I would imagine this was a risky take, a sacrificial take, making people like Franklin Graham, Jerry Falwell, the president of the United States angry. That's not an easy thing to do. I would have to imagine that they will lose a lot of supporters over this, maybe gain a few as well. But it's a costly take, and I really applaud them for that. That couldn't have been an easy thing to do.
Well, especially the other element of this is there are people who serve on their board, including people like Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, who who's been on our podcast and been in our publication many times. And I think we agree with him on a lot of issues. I think there are issues we probably disagree with him on. He's been relatively progressive in his ideas about immigration and the need for immigration reform. There are other political ideas that I'm sure we don't necessarily agree with him on, but he serves on Christianity Today's board, and he released a statement that he was surprised by the release of this. And the tone of his release, seemed to be expressing some displeasure that this was published in a publication that he serves on the board of. The other element to this story is Mark Galley, who is the editor-in-chief over Christianity Today. His tenure is ending in January, to my understanding.
That's
Isn't that right, Tyler?
Yeah, I believe so. January 3rd, if I remember correctly.
And there seems to be some indications that the leadership at the publication was not aware that they were, launching this take, that he was personally, doing this editorial, which is, I just think is an interesting element of the story and kind of the background, kind of behind the scenes at the publication. And so that's the other thing that makes this particularly kind of an interesting story and an interesting take. And look, I mean, it drew criticism from the sitting president of the United States. So,
not every day that you get I've never had a piece shared positive or negative by the president before. I think that's all really true. I think it's like I said, I applaud what they did. I'm sure it wasn't an easy thing to do. I personally agree with the statement. I think it's the sort of moral clarity that is really valuable to have. Right now, especially when so much of Christianity is conflated with this presidency to stake out that counter narrative. I think there's real value in that. Good for them. And to the people responding, there's been a lot of really interesting responses. It's been really cool to see so many people who had really given up on, any sort of Christian institution having something like this to say about this presidency. It's been really cool for me to see people who probably wouldn't call themselves Christian necessarily expressing a lot of relief and gratitude for a statement like this. And I know that's really valuable, and we can't overstate how important it is to provide hope for people who have gotten a little cynical about the church because of the politics right now. And Chandler, there's going to be other presidents.
So
don't let it get you down.
It is interesting, especially, and how this is something we talked about a lot this morning, kind of sitting where we do, as obviously we're not a political magazine, our coverage tend to lend to more pop cultural coverage, but and we are not. I think we should say even explicitly evangelical Christianity Today. I think we are often conflated with it, but we try to. Our coverage, it does go beyond just evangelical. Whatever that word means in 2019, which I know is a little bit complicated. Relevant has never been explicitly evangelical in its coverage. Yeah, we've tried to be home to people from across the spectrum of the Big C church, including, people who are Catholic or people who may be more progressive, people who may be more conservative. But yeah, we tried to be beyond the, quote unquote evangelicalism. And also I think we make a lot of judgment calls, and a lot of our coverage, we've tried not to be overly partisan because we're not, like I said, a political magazine, but we have views that I think would fall in the camp of what would be considered like a conservative view when it comes to something like being pro-life, but also we have a deep concern for the vitriolic rhetoric and the treatment of immigrants and refugees, and just kind of the hypocrisy of what's happening right now with a lot of Christians in America. So it's interesting to see Christianity to take today's take, and obviously we'll try to continue to hopefully cover in a way that's informative issues that should concern Christians when it comes to the intersection of faith and politics.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think we got everything we need to say there. We'll keep an eye on the story. I would imagine there'll be some more developments before the end of the day, but I think that's about all we can say as of this recording right now.
Yeah.
So let's move on to number 3 then. And this is a fun one. Kumail Nanjiani is being refreshingly candid about getting in Marvel movie shape. So this was an interesting, this happened like 3 days ago. It feels like 4 years ago, but Kumail obviously has had quite a career, from being a slapstick doofus on Silicon Valley to being the writer behind 2017's very good The Big Sick. Now he's going to be in next year's Eternals, where he'll join the Marvel movie brigade. As is par for the course for these actors, that means he had to get himself into superhero shape. He posted a picture of the results, and no two ways about it, it's quite a transformation. He's extremely jacked, and maybe more interesting for the purposes of this podcast is the caption that went along with it. He wrote, "I would not have been able to do this if I didn't have a full year with the best trainers and nutritionists paid for by the biggest studio in the world. I'm glad I look like this, but I also understand why I never did before. It would have been impossible without these resources and time." This is interesting because it does open up a bigger conversation about body issues among men in America. It's really talked about, but men do struggle with it, and it's on the rise. Some experts estimate that men have 1 in 4 of all the eating disorders in the U.S., as a recent HuffPo article found. In the same way that girls are more likely to consider themselves overweight even when they are underweight, studies have shown that boys are more likely to perceive themselves as underweight even if they're actually overweight. Just like kids with anorexia, boys suffering from muscle dysmorphia will engage in extreme behaviors to reach their goals. Researchers cite the increasing musculature of toys like G.I. Joe as part of the culprit, as well as the growing dominance of action heroes. The prevalence of unrealistic body types isn't nearly as prevalent for boys as it is for women, of course, but it is a growing problem, and one America is ill-equipped to navigate. Part of that navigation will be helped by these stars being open and honest about this part of their job. Hopefully, Nanjiani's transparency can help set a new way forward for these conversations.
Yeah, the pictures of Kumail Nanjiani are, I mean, if you've seen him in like Silicon Valley, I mean, it was shocking. He is shredded, but he looks
like a different person.
Yeah, and we talked about this on Daily, I think it was last week, about the Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny. The body transformation is and body dysmorphia, particularly among men, has been a theme of that show for a long time, particularly his character Mac. And in a recent season, he got in, pretty ridiculously shredded shape, but did a similar post. And it's like, it took the studio funding his, nutritionist and working out 3 times a day and these insane measures that no normal person could or should take for the sake of the character, to kind of highlight how unrealistic it is to try to model or aspire to something like this that these actors undertake to try to give somewhat of a healthy perspective on it,
Yeah, and I would think that's it's always interesting to see these, like, it was just a few years ago, and Chris Pratt went from being the kind of schlubby guy on Parks and Rec to those pictures started circulating of him getting in Star-Lord shape, and it's wild that they can do this, and I think from a certain perspective it can even be kind of inspiring. If you're looking to, if you're looking for some New Year's goals, like, oh, I could try to like, I like hitting the gym, hit the gym a little more. I understand how it could do that, but I think it can also set up just like an unrealistic goal that if going to the gym isn't your 9 to 5 that's being funded by Disney of all places, understanding how unrealistic that is and finding more realistic goals is really, really helpful. So increasing that conversation for men and women is good. It was cool to see. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. A refreshing kind of take from him. Not just gloating about getting in shape, but highlighting how unhealthy it can be to aspire to that without the right perspective.
Yeah. Number 2 this week, a Bethel worship leader calls on prayers to resurrect her young daughter. Okay, so Callie Helegenthal is a worship leader for Bethel Church, whose young daughter Olive tragically and suddenly passed away over the weekend. Helegenthal and her husband Andrew took to Instagram to ask the church to pray that Olive be brought back to life. Helegenthal noted that Olive had been pronounced dead by doctors. She wrote on Instagram, "We are asking for bold, unified prayers from the global church to stand with us in belief that he will raise this little girl back to life. Her time here is not done, and it is our time to believe boldly and with confidence wield what King Jesus paid for. It's time for her to come back to life." Many worship leaders joined her, pledging their support over social media, including the official accounts of Bethel Church and Jesus Culture, along with Carrie Job, Brooke Ligertwood, Brian Johnson, and Amanda Lindsay Cook. A GoFundMe has been started to help the Helegenthal family through this tragedy. There have been no other updates just yet. We want to be really careful here. This is obviously an extremely sensitive and just such a sad story. And we certainly do. We have a lot of love for everybody over at Bethel and are certainly are praying for what an awful loss this is.
Yeah. And listen, I commend the boldness of that whole church and that whole community for being willing to pray for something as miraculous as a resurrection. I think, I think that is personally, I think that's a powerful example to a lot of Christians. And, it kind of goes back to the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego thing, where as they're standing in the fire, being essentially executed for their beliefs, they said, God will deliver us. But even if he doesn't, we won't disbelieve. So no matter what the outcome of this tragedy is, they're standing in faith. And I think that's a powerful, powerful thing. Tyler, what are your thoughts on this situation?
I agree. The boldness in prayer is commendable. And we've talked about this before, written about this. We believe in a God who can do these things. We really do. I understand the criticism that I've seen in response to this. And I think that there is a form that movements like this can take that makes it actually harder to deal with the reality of grief and loss and pain that is very much a part of our lives and part of the world that we live in. I think that sometimes these campaigns do become a way of sort of avoiding those things and trying to stay away from those things. I can't speak into the heart of what's going on with the Helegenthal. I don't know, so I'm not going to pretend to be aware of their motives here and what they are or are not facing or grappling with. That's not my place. I know that's a real risk, but I don't know. I've never lost a child. I'm not a parent.
But I mean, listen, grief and faith for miraculous can coexist. Before Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, he grieved him. He grieved, He wept when he heard that his friend had died, but he still performed a resurrection, And, you guys know me. I don't talk a lot about my personal life or my past, but I've thought about this story a lot, and I prayed for their family a lot this week. And I was kind of hesitant to even share this. But, when I was young, I lost an older brother when we were children, and he was suffering from a long-term illness. And, my mother would pin a mustard seed onto his pajamas every night. And as a sign of faith, as this is how, we believe in God's capability of healing. And, it was a symbolic thing. And he ended up, he passed away when we were children. And I've thought a lot about that throughout my life. And I don't think it is any sort of, failure of God. I think that show of faith is still powerful. And no matter what happens in this situation, I commend them for their faith and for believing in the miraculous power of God. And that, sometimes God does or doesn't do things and we might not understand why, but we're taught to believe in his nature, and that, healing and resurrection will happen, whether it's in our understanding in this life or whether it's in the life that we're promised that is to come. And so it's difficult. Obviously it's a tragic situation, but I think the prayers for impossible things are powerful, even if they aren't answered in the way that we think they should be. So, I think, we joined that whole community in praying for the family. And like I said, I personally commend their faith in this, and it's a difficult, hard thing. And sometimes we don't understand why things happen, but we do understand, the God we serve. And so, man, I join them in prayers, and, it's difficult, but also I think exemplary, in my opinion, of a boldness in faith,
Thanks for sharing all that, Jesse. I know it's a really personal and not an easy thing to talk about.
And I don't share that to make this story about me. I hope it doesn't come across like that. But just to more or less as a testimony of solidarity with, faith. And I'm not saying that God won't answer their prayers in the way that they want him to. I believe God can and does perform miracles, but I also think sometimes, we don't know what those miracles look like, and that no matter what the outcome is, God is good. But again, I don't say that to say I don't believe that God can perform a miracle. I believe he can. I don't know what the outcome will be, but I think God, is powerful, and he calls us to pray boldly for powerful things,
One thing I do think it's important to remember here is, and I think there's obviously all kinds of views around these types of prayers and these types of praying for healing and what that means, and we understand that. One thing I do think it's important that I say that we definitely hold relevant, and I think that Jesse, I think I can say this, and Chandler as well. We do not believe that when these prayers are not answered, that is not on the fault of the person praying. That is not a lack of faith or praying the wrong way. We do not believe that any sort of prosperity type prayer in something like this. So we believe that God does things for his own ways, and I do not want to suggest or would want anybody to think that there is any sort of that God rewards prayers for people who pray a certain way, like a magic spell. That's not how this works, yeah. And I think that's a really damaging theology that is often spread, and it's not one that we subscribe to at all.
And I'll say this just to add to that, Tyler. Too, the reason, the only because you guys, I feel like I don't share a lot about my personal life, but the only reason I share that is hopefully as an encouragement, because what happened in my past, in my family's past, has shaped my faith greatly and has taught me a lot about God and his nature and his grace. And I still believe in the power of God. I still believe in the power of healing. I still believe he calls us to bold prayers. But I also believe that, no matter how God answers prayers, that he is still good. And and as you said, Tyler, the outcome of the situation is not a reflection of any degree of faith. It's a reflection of living in a world that is complicated, and that we're called to pray that God's kingdom comes, and that we aren't living in the perfect state that God has intended, but we are called to believe for it, and we are called to fight for it. And I think those are wise words, Tyler.
And we will continue to watch this story, and obviously anybody who does want to donate to the family, there's a link to their GoFundMe over on relevantmagazine.com, and we encourage you to do that. Finally, in a little more of an uplifting story than the ones we've talked about so far in this hot list, number 1 this week, Jamie Foxx, who's the star, obviously, of Just Mercy, which is coming out pretty soon here, talks about why he thinks the church should be more loving, inclusive, and unifying. So Foxx, star of the upcoming film Just Mercy, which tells the true story of justice system reform advocate and devout Christian Bryan Stevenson. Leading up to the release, Foxx sat down with the Christian Post to discuss his own background with faith, why the movie has such an important message, and why he believes the church needs to be more inclusive. Foxx said that growing up, he went to church every day and was heavily influenced by his grandmother, who encouraged him to seek authentic faith, even though he often saw how judgmental some Christians could be. He said, quote, "What I found odd, though, the people that went to church treated me bad exactly when I would go on the other side of the tracks. These people that went to church and taught us the Bible called me the N-word, right? Treated me bad, ran me across the tracks. In my mind, I thought, something is off, because if there is a heaven, I ain't hanging out with them. So they're going to have to be separate in my heaven, because I don't want to be around people that called me these things." These experiences shaped how he views faith as an adult. Now he says he holds church at his own home and invites people from all backgrounds to experience community and God's love. He said, "I've always had this vision, and I've done it in certain things where I have people come to my house and we have church at my house, not shown on television or anything like that. But my idea is that at a certain point, Black church, white church, Hispanic, everybody goes to church together. I think when that very religion, which is supposed to take us to a beautiful place, becomes a tool to divide, that's where you just sort of leave people disillusioned." He also said that Just Mercy is the most important film he's ever been a part of because of how it shows the need for real reforms in the justice system. Jamie Foxx seems like a pretty good guy, man. I've always had a lot of respect for him,
and I like his take there too. Like, I do too. It is ironic that the church often casts people out when they need the church the most. You know what I mean? Like, it's when people are struggling.
How many times have we heard the story? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, hey man, I'm struggling here. Why are you guys turning your back on me? Like, that's what the church is for. So people going through that. So it was an interesting take, and also I think the whole telling Bryan Stevenson's story is super important, and I think we can definitely encourage people to go see this one.
Super cool, and if you're fans of Relevant Magazine and like listening to this, you might be hearing some of our some conversations with people involved in that movie as well here in the near future. We won't give too much away for now, but I'm really excited about this. I've been a fan of this book for a long time, a huge fan of Stevenson's work, and I honestly can't wait to see the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that will wrap it up for this week's.
It's the hot list. The hot list. It's sizzling.
Stay with us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Jonathan Pryce joins us. You're listening to Scared to Death by Kay Trinata. Scared to Death is how I felt when I dove into Chandler's thread last night.
It was radical. It was concerning, and
started off on the right foot.
I haven't slept since it started off pretty conventional. When
if 10% of the things in this Twitter
in,
that are true, then the Earth is. It's time to abandon ship.
when he got into the portion that is manifesto time, that's when I got concerned. His policies on for some reason nuking other planets just to see what would happen. So a lot of resources you're suggesting we do that with. He wanted to populate the moon with woolly mammoths that we bring back for reasons that are never made clear in the manifesto, and had a lot of more questions than concerns, I think. But it's everyone's entitled to their opinion. So
we love you, Chandler. We do love you. We obviously do not necessarily condone all of the content in that Twitter thread. Nor do we recommend that everybody read it. To children, for sure. People with heart conditions. I would advise you to seek a doctor, or seek some medical professionals' advice before diving in, because there are some truly shocking, stunning, even disgusting, I would say.
Yeah, the portion where you suggested tunneling to the core of the Earth because you believe there are giant lobster people down there. That's where I felt like, I don't know if anyone's going to get behind this, but I mean, like I said, it's a matter of opinion.
That doesn't come. That's not until tweet 1,270 or so. So if people even stick with it,
yeah. When you suggested that schools stop teaching math, it was you lost me a little, but I hated math, so sure, why not? We don't need it anymore.
Okay. Well, Jonathan Pryce is a Welsh actor known for his roles in Tomorrow Never Dies, Pirates of the Caribbean, The New World, The Age of Innocence, and his long-standing performance as the High Sparrow on Game of Thrones. He now stars in Netflix's The Two Popes, playing Pope Francis in a movie about the papal transition from Pope Benedict. I recently spoke with Jonathan about the difficulty of playing Pope Francis, his own feelings about the Catholic Church, and whether or not playing someone like Francis makes you a better person. I was really smitten with this movie. The trailer, I don't think did it a lot of justice. It has the trailer has kind of a stuffy tone. It has kind of like a important required reading vibe to it, but it's a very winsome, charming, even very funny movie, almost a buddy comedy about this odd couple of Pope Francis, played by Jonathan Pryce here, Pope Benedict, played by Anthony Hopkins, and how they don't really get along on anything, have two very different views about the church and the world, and how they have to learn to sort of get along and figure out the transition of powers. It's really thoughtful, and I'd really recommend it to you. I enjoyed it, I would say, even more than I thought it would. So when I spoke to Jonathan, I was curious about the opportunity of playing somebody like Pope Francis. I wondered if it's kind of hard to play somebody who people have such strong ideas about, who obviously is an extremely public, well-known figure. I didn't know if he was excited about that opportunity or if he found it sort of challenging and unnerving. Here's what he said.
I wasn't immediately excited because you could only see the problems at that time that this might throw up. Huge issues to deal with, obviously, about not just religion, but the politics of the church. And, I thought, well, I could be on hiding to nothing, portraying Francis. I would, neither please nor displease all the people all the time. But once on reading the script and knowing that the sort of the issues that are in the public consciousness at the moment with the sexual abuse issues and the priesthood, celibacy, and whether there's all those issues, they're dealt with in the script, and in a way that was, I think things as far as Benedict were concerned are touched on lightly. I mean, it's essentially two men making a confession to each other.
It's true that they do. This doesn't avoid the issues that the Catholic Church has had to deal with over the past couple of years. And I think one of the things that I appreciated about it is how it managed to do that in a way that was very sensitive without ever getting terribly preachy, and I think that was probably very difficult to do, and the script handles it quite well.
Because the film mainly is about the relationship between Benedict and Francis, right? I mean, it's sort of not like a buddy I haven't seen it yet. I know you've had the opportunity to, but it's sort of almost like a buddy comedy sort of exploring this very unique, complicated relationship, not so much about the politics of the church, right, Tyler?
That's correct. And I think that I was surprised. I spoke, we'll play this interview at a later date, but I spoke with the director as well, who said that when he first entered into this, he imagined this would be a movie about bad Pope Benedict and good Pope Francis, and sort of a more standard hero villain movie. And the more he looked into it, the more he realized it wasn't quite that simple. He found it to be he found a much more nuanced take on it, although everybody involved that I spoke to definitely spoke very admiringly of Francis. So I asked Jonathan what he really felt like after playing this. What are the real differences they found personally between Benedict and Francis, and how did those come out in the movie?
I think what we both wanted to present were two characters that for a while existed on a page. And when I approach a character anyway, whatever it is, fictional or real life, I try not to be, in my performance, to be judgmental, to make judgments about them, and to be, and let the audience make their minds up what they think about the people. Because I think it's quite rare in life that unless you're having an interview over a phone, that you're being judgmental about what you're saying and how you're saying it, and wary of how you're saying it. You just say it, and it's spontaneous, and I think that's what both of us wanted to bring out, the spontaneity of these discussions.
That was something that I've heard from a lot of actors I talked to recently about the challenge of trying to find not seeing the character you're playing as good or bad any more than we see ourselves as good or bad, but just trying to find something that's really honest about them, and that's what he certainly did with Francis. I also wanted to know when it comes to playing somebody like Pope Francis, if that does a number on you, like is it a challenge, or does it kind of leave you different to play somebody who's so famously such a nice, compassionate, caring individual, if that's challenging, not just to play, but also for what you're like when you go home, when you stop acting? Here's what he said.
You choose these roles because you want to learn from them. And the great thing about Francis is when you have that empathy with a person, it reinforces what you think and how you feel about society. And so you do take you do take away a bit, and I'm glad of it. I've turned down roles in the past where they were outwardly evil or Nazis or those extreme characters, because I didn't want to be them for a couple of months, and I'd rather choose characters that were more optimistic.
I thought that was super cool, and it's super interesting. You take characters because you want to learn something from them.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the characters he's played. I mean, you're going from a character on Game of Thrones to the Pope. Showing that sort of not just diversity of your ability as an actor, but as sort of a curious mind. A lot of people ask. I've talked to people who are trying to get into writing and journalism, and they ask me kind of what in my opinion makes like a good writer. And I think this to some degree, to underscore what Jonathan is saying there, is I think the number one thing is curiosity. Right? Yeah. Like you can learn a lot of other skills. Like you can learn technique, you can learn how to write, but you can't teach someone to be curious about something. And I think what he's kind of saying there is, wanting to get into the head of someone who's an interesting figure. I think that I think translates in the clips from the film I've shown, the authenticity of the performances. It's a genuine embrace of who they think these two men in extremely unique circumstances are.
And to your point, I then asked, I was curious about his own religious experience. Was his interest in this movie religious, or was it something broader than that? He had some interesting comments. I appreciated how open he was, telling me about his own faith.
I'm not a Catholic. But I was brought up in the Christian faith. So I was, I went to chapel in Wales until I was a teenager, and then, like many teenagers, walked away from it. But and popes in the past, I've been aware of them, but never as aware of a pope as I am of Francis. And I think that's why he was elected pope, to make that connection with people, Catholics and non-Catholics.
So super cool. And that was really everybody's attitude that I spoke to about this movie, was an extreme amount of respect for Francis, who, even though I don't think I talked to anybody who would call themselves a Catholic for sure, possibly not even a Christian, but they all said that Pope Francis made them want to be, or made them admire the Catholic faith, which is a real testament to his, the past couple of years of him leading the church.
Yeah. Well, it's out on Netflix this weekend, right, Tyler?
That's correct. Yeah, it's coming out on Netflix, and I would advise. I really do think that whatever your relationship with the church, with Catholicism, with this Pope, it's hard to imagine somebody not enjoying it, because it is very fun and very winsome and extremely thoughtful. And I think that this is now the second actor I've talked to in the last couple of weeks who I think is a real contender for one of the best performances of the year. Pryce's performance here is just excellent, really, really great, and I hope the Academy recognizes him when award season comes out, because it's great. It's really good.
Remind me again, who's the other actor you talked to recently that you think is in contention?
Kelvin Harrison Jr. in Waves, who I also thought was one of the better performances that I saw this year.
Tyler, you've been just on the circuit leading up to award season. I mean, you're talking to all the contenders, and like I said, next week you're talking to Greta Gerwig. There's a lot.
Also absolutely one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, and what a run Netflix is on right now. Like,
no kidding, man.
Netflix was I think leading up to this year, honestly. I mean, last year they've had Roma, they've had Beasts of No Nation, they've had a couple of prestige films. There's no question. I'm not trying to take anything away from Mudbound, a couple, but I think the general, thought with like Netflix originals and Netflix original series was they're sort of kind of B-level. But this year, sure. I mean, they're on a run right now. I mean, like I said, there were obviously some outliers, but they're on a run right now. They have Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story. They have Two Popes, which is in legit award season contention across the board. 600 Round, that Ryan Reynolds movie, the Michael Bay, is bonkers. And I cannot imagine that it costs less than $500 million, because I watched a little of it the other night, and in the first 10 minutes, there are like 25 cars that explode in a replica of a museum in Florence, Italy. Like, I mean, Netflix seems like they're legitimately doing A-level work now, consistently,
And this, not to mention The Irishman, which is a legit Best Picture contender. Like, that could it's Martin Scorsese, for crying out loud. I think that Netflix is really. I know that Disney Plus pulled a lot of their customer base away, or so the estimates read. But I think that if you're leaving Netflix, you're missing out on some real top of the year type work from them, and I'm excited to see what they come out with next year too.
Yeah, including Two Popes with Jonathan Pryce. I appreciate him being on the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're going to take another break. When we come back, Highlands Worship is going to join us.
Away in a manger, no crib for a bed. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky look down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay.
There are over 1 million children trapped in the darkness of sexual slavery. Destiny Rescue is a Christian-based organization dedicated to rescuing these kids and helping them stay free. Girls like Tala, who once was a worship leader, became trapped and sold for sex. All seemed hopeless, yet she still prayed for a way out. Then one night, she was found by a Destiny Rescue agent. Our rescue agents are relentlessly seeking, finding, and rescuing brave individuals around the world through a variety of rescue tactics. We help survivors let go of traumatic past through individual aftercare plans and empower them to live out their God-given destinies. Today, Tala is going to college and getting a communications degree. She is earning a safe living and has even returned as a worship leader in her church. She has found hope, worth, and restoration in the light of Jesus Christ. You can be a light and reach the next child waiting in the darkness at destinyrescue.org.
You're listening to Born in Bethlehem by Highlands Worship. Well, Highlands Worship has released a brand new collection of songs called Shine Heaven's Light, a Christmas EP. We recently spoke with the band's Bethany Phillips and Marquita Anthony about some of the EP's most powerful songs that deserve a spot on your Christmas playlist. My Christmas playlist is ready, Jesse. Sell me on some of these new songs.
All right. I'll let Bethany Marquita do some help here, because what I liked about this record, this is similar to what we were talking about with Lecrae, I guess, last week, is fresh takes on classic songs. And there's a couple on here that you've heard before, but you haven't heard like this before. And the approach they took to this album is they performed it live with like some really crazy production elements, like an elevating drum kit, this crazy light setup. They'll talk about you'll hear them reference the drum thing. But one of the songs I want to ask about was "O Come, Emmanuel." This song, this album is very celebratory, which I think is fun. But also has a degree of reverence. And so I wanted to talk to them about, how they create a fresh take on something that we've all are familiar with, but maybe not familiar with this sound. Mm-hmm. Here's them talking about "O Come, Emmanuel."
I mean, thinking about the word Emmanuel is just God with us. Mm-hmm. And so just saying, "O come, Emmanuel," being able to look at it, that framework, and then particularly when we got to do this song live, watching even as the drum flakes, if you will, ascend from, there's almost that visual element to it as well. Mm-hmm. Like, those things coming down and being able to really, the song itself is just incredibly well written and done. And then the team took it and took it next level. It's obviously we're biased to that, but that's kind of what we feel they did. And, but yeah, I think just the whole idea of being able to take these songs that we have sung our entire lives, if you've grown up anywhere around just the element of Christmas, yeah, you don't even have to be in church. You just turn on the TV. But being able to do that and give them a little bit more, and some of these takes, they're visuals that are just incredible that have happened, but giving people an opportunity to reminisce and remember those, but hear them in a fresh way it's always super special around the season of Christmas.
Here is a clip of "O Come, Emmanuel." They also another one, Tyler, for the Christmas playlist.
I've already dropped that one on mine, so keep them coming.
As you are covering every inch of the roof of your home with gaudy Christmas lights, pumping music through your AirPods, and Chandler, as you are every square inch of your front yard and driveway are with Snoopy riding Harley Davidson in Santa hat inflatables. Something to start piping through the AirPods is their take on Joy to the World, which, as they described, was cool because the idea of joy and this kind of spirit of celebration and being joyful was actually a theme for their church for the whole year. So it was kind of rewarding to be able to put it out on a Christmas album that came out, kind of late in the year. And here's them discussing it.
I think Joy to the World is just, again, it really honestly falls back into the same place of "O Come, Emmanuel." Like they're such recognizable songs for us around here at our local church, at Church of the Highlands. This whole theme this past year has been joy, and so to be able to have that theme come incredibly huge with Joy to the World at Christmas, you know, and really almost starting off our year in that way. Joy to the World is really probably an anthem around here, if anything, because of just the idea of we want people to know God and find freedom and discover their purpose and make a difference. This whole kind of mantra that we have as a local church, and joy being the center of that, because that's who God is and what he wants in our lives.
And here is a clip of Joy to the World.
He rules the world with truth and grace and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness and wonders of his love and wonders of his love, wonders of his righteous love.
All right, finally, Chandler, as I know you're in pretty fierce competition with the neighbors on your block for who has the best Christmas light display. As you are stealing a nativity scene, as you are vandalizing someone's outdoor Christmas tree display, you need some tunes to be cranking to show that you have the best Christmas yard in the neighborhood. So what a better one to crank through than Let There Be Peace. Let There Be Peace from Highlands Worship. Because as they come storming out of their house while you're running down the road with two very expensive light up reindeer, you'll be shouting, "Let there be peace! Let there be peace! Don't hurt me! Don't hurt me!" And you drop them and run into the woods. Let this be cranking through your iPads. Let There Be Peace. Here is Highlands Worship talking about it. And I apologize for Highlands for that intro to it.
Let There Be Peace, man. It's just an incredible, again, it just kind of flows into that whole theme and of who we are. And what we try to be here is just that place of just saying, hey, just giving people a refuge. Our pastor talks a lot about our home church being just a place where people can come in and take a breath and remember that they're valued and that they're loved. And just including something like this, Let There Be Peace in the midst of that, knowing not to be super waxing poetic about it, but just the whole idea of what we look at when we look outside of the world, and not that when you come into the building it's any different, but when we set our hearts into Jesus and what he's done, there is that peace. So honestly, being able to just declare with some fun to it, let there be peace in the world, I think that's just a huge statement.
Right. Just the lyrics, it's a big fun piece. You get to have a lot of fun with it. Where the title of the album comes from. So it's just one of those songs. Of course, it had to be added.
The EP, once again, is Shine Heaven's Light, a Christmas EP. You can check it out now.
That's super cool. And I appreciate your additions to my Christmas playlist, Jesse. Honestly, it's just been Mariah for the last 3 weeks, so I really needed something to switch it up.
Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there, Tyler.
With that, I think it's time to wrap it up for us. Hey, many thanks to Jonathan Pryce for taking the time to talk to us. Two Popes hits Netflix. You should absolutely go check that one out. Also, Highlands Worship. Thanks to those ladies for joining us, talking to us about their new EP, Shine Heaven's Light, a Christmas EP. That's super cool as well. Prayers up for Prop. We hope you start feeling better, man. Sorry you couldn't join us today. You'd obviously have a lot to add to the conversation. We'll try and get you next time. And don't forget, next week, only one episode. We're only going to have one podcast episode next week, but it's going to be a good one. You won't want to miss it. A special Christmas, our post-Christmas bonanza to help you ease out of the Christmas season and into the new year. And make sure that as long as you're on our Apple Podcast page, head over and subscribe to Relevant Daily. It's where we talk about the top 3 news stories at the intersection of faith and culture every single day, brought to you by me. That's always a really fun one to do. I think it's pretty insightful. And I think we have to edit out some of the more radical takes from certain members of Relevant staff. We don't need to name any names, but but it's curated. It's curated.
And Chandler, I think now's the right time to announce that Chandler has long served as our illustrious producer on this pod, but I've just gotten a text from him informing me he is the new editor-in-chief of Christianity Today magazine. Congratulations, Chandler.
Oh, congratulations. Well deserved.
Thanks.
Congratulations. I'm also seeing on Twitter the president of the United States is very unhappy about your new job. But hey, it's new things coming in 2020.
He appears to think your name is Chancster. I don't know how that happened. But
he's
probably for the best.
Yeah, he's always he's misspelled your name, but he's called you Lion Chandler Strang. And so
Lion Chancster. He's calling you far left progressive. I would quibble with that. I think that progressive or conservative isn't really even quite the right it's not the right axis to be talking about your politics, Chandler.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this Twitter thread live, and Chandler just replied to the president with that Antonio Banderas gif. And so we're off to a great end to 2019.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is how we close out the year. We're going to miss you around here, Chandler, obviously, but Christianity Today's got a new winner. Let's pilot them into the next Christianity tomorrow.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Franklin Graham's just thrilled about all of this.
All right, we'll wrap it up then. I'm Tyler Huckabee.
I'm Chandler Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Relevant Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Check out other shows from the Relevant Podcast Network in the podcast section at relevantmagazine.com. And while you're there, browse exclusive podcast merchandise at our online store. Make sure to subscribe to Relevant Magazine. Info is available at relevantmagazine.com/subscribe.
Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Relevant Podcast Network.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Go to Dutch.com to get vet care that is always there for just $92 a year.